Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Life Uncensored, Navigating Adulthood, one episode at a time. I'm your host, Amanda Lockhart Davis, and we've got a good one for you tonight. I know you always say that, but they're all good. So, what? You want me to lie? I'm not gonna. Tonight, we have a special guest who is a new family member to Life Uncensored. And our topic tonight is spreading the wealth, family entrepreneurship. I want you to grab your pens, grab your pads, grab your wine, your coffee, your tea, whatever it is, get in a comfy spot, get ready to take some notes because she's gonna lay it on you. Okay. We're gonna have a great conversation tonight. And I'm super, super excited about this guest. I just can't wait for you all to hear from her. Her name is Lyndsae Peele, not Lindsay, Lyndsae. Okay, don't forget that. Need a little extra twang on it. Lyndsae Peele. She is a finance coach, an international speaker, author, and advocate for Black wealth. She serves as senior entrepreneurial ecosystem manager. That's a mouthful right there at Kiva US, expanding equitable access to no fee, zero interest capital, and as Chief Wealth Officer of Kingdom Vision Consulting. She's an SBA, which is, I'm sorry, an SBA recognized firm. Through Keys to the Kingdom Real Estate Advisors, she advances her mission of increasing home ownership rates in historically underserved communities while serving as chair of the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce and Foundation, a 2025 Women We Admire honoree and 2024 Trailblazer Award recipient. She is driven to build generational wealth through entrepreneurship, home ownership, and financial education. Please give a nice, warm welcome to our newest family member, Lyndsae Peele.
Hello,
Hi!
hello.
Hi, hi, hi.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me. I am so looking forward to this conversation.
I am too. And honey, listen, your resume precedes you, girlfriend. I want you to know, in case you didn't know, I want you to know. I had to practice that, all your accolades and your titles. I
Thank
had to
you.
practice.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am so, so glad to have you on tonight. We've got a really good conversation here that I think is going to be um, very informative and very eye opening to a lot of people. So I'm glad to have you. And listen, right off the bat, Miss Harriet Hall says hi. So, hi, Miss Harriet Hall. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We are glad to have you too. All right. So, Lyndsae, let's just
Yes.
jump right on into it, right? Because we're going to have a conversation, honey. We might have to part two this. So I just want to jump right into it. The topic tonight is spreading the wealth, family entrepreneurship. When you and I first talked about having you on the show, I asked you what specifically, with all the things that you have going on, what would you like to talk about? What's top of heart, top of mind? And you said family entrepreneurship, and so that's how we came upon this topic today. So tell me why this topic is near and dear to your heart, and how or what does family entrepreneurship mean to you personally?
Whew, such a big question. Before I even answer, I just have to give honor to God for all things, but for the vision and for the opportunity to serve my community in the way that He has assigned me to do so. I also
Mm,
have to thank my parents for the life that they have given me, but the grit and the resilience that they have shown me. My parents are a big part of my why. When we think about
mm,
family entrepreneurship, I am because they are. I am able
mm,
to do because they did.
mm,
Entrepreneurship for me, and specifically family entrepreneurship, it was before it became popular. Now on social media, being an entrepreneur is like the best thing since sliced bread. And everybody wants to do it. They want to fire their boss and all of the things, which it's great, right? When you do it and you're doing it with intentionality and strategy. But for my family and I, entrepreneurship wasn't really a choice. My
mm,
parents had me after the age of 40. And when they did, they were both in very transitional seasons of their life where they were pretty much kind of starting over. So this was an opportunity for them to, to parent differently, but also to reimagine what they wanted to see as, professionals in this space. Having a
Mm,
at 42, and at that time neither of my parents had college degrees, nor retirement funds aside to prepare them for the next chapter. It was entrepreneurship that gave them the opportunity. My father, he always wanted to become a plumber. He would plumb on the side. And at some point, he found the courage and the motivation. And he found my mom, his wife, but also business partner, who was able to support and encourage him. And I remember being a child in elementary school, seeing him studying for his plumbing exam, seeing my mom right there in the living room with him asking questions. And I didn't know then, and I probably didn't know how to value it then, but that was the beginning of my legacy. And when they started the business, they were about 50. So
mm,
it was literally me seeing them create something out of nothing, to create something when they didn't have much to create it with, but they did it, and they did it together. Right, because it truly takes a village. And oftentimes, when we think about it taking a village, we think that it just takes a village outside of your home, but we also have to have a village inside of the four walls where we rest our head, that is also supporting the mission and the movement of what we're doing. And me seeing my parents create this family business, my father has now been running the family business as the plumber, the lead plumber. My mom has been managing the operations of that business for almost 30 years. That very business, gave me the opportunities that I have today. That very business sent me to my number one choice school, Howard University, the real HU. That business, helped me purchase my first home and helped to provide the first loan to my actual business that I have right now. But without that level of exposure, without that support, without that motivation, I wouldn't be half the woman that I am today. So I attribute a lot of my success to my parents, who truly had to get it out of the mud so that I did not have to get it out of the mud. So family entrepreneurship for me, it's the backbone of my life. It is the blood that flows through the veins of myself, but also the veins of my household and my family, as I am creating that family and that legacy for me. So it's everything.
yeah.
We're that family who didn't choose entrepreneurship because it was cute. We chose it because we didn't have a choice, and that
Mm.
makes a difference too.
Wow. Well, first and foremost, big up to your parents, right? Slow clap, right? For your parents. Shout them out by name for me.
Dorothy Peele and Linwood Peele. I love y'all.
Yes, listen, I love y'all and I've never laid eyes on you. And I say that because it's this sort of talk that our generation and the generation behind us need to hear, but it had to start somewhere. So for them, I thank them. That is an amazing background story, origin story, I should say. That's amazing. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
So you just talked about what you saw growing up, the family working together, creating that wealth, building it. Do you think that those who don't have that reach out and touch connection to family wealth building, family entrepreneurship, can come by it in other ways, excuse me, and sustain it in the same way that you've seen your parents sustain it?
Absolutely. One thing before I jump into that response, I see on the back of your board that I'm just seeing now, the family that grinds together shines together. And that is such a beautiful thing. I'm pretty sure that might have been intentional for tonight. But one thing about the word family and what it means is that family doesn't always have to be by blood, right? And I tell my clients often that although you might not have seen the examples that you desire to see in your immediate household or through your direct bloodline, you also get to kind of choose who your extended family is.
Mm,
And oftentimes, once you're ready, right, because you actually have to be ready for it, you can go out there and create that community in other places and spaces. There are so many organizations that are out there, and their purpose is to create community amongst people. One of them that immediately comes to my mind is New Momish by my good friend Miss Gilly Shaw. And New Momish is a community that builds families specifically for mothers out there. So even if you have had a trauma filled relationship with your mom, or you just didn't see that healthy mother daughter relationships or sister sister relationships, she builds that community with blood, sweat, and tears, and God all up and through that. You
Mm,
also have organizations like the Women Entrepreneur Leadership Lab, where these entrepreneurs are able to come together on several times per month to just be in community and to create that sense of family, to also help motivate and encourage each other to build these businesses. So I recognize that I am very fortunate to have that connectivity inside of my actual bloodline and my family and from my parents directly. However, I don't want that to be a deterrent to people who are looking for that next level in their life, because you get to also go out there and choose who your family is as well.
yes, I love that. You can choose. Um, and I think that kind of ties into our show title, right? Navigating adulthood one episode at a time. Sometimes in that navigation, right, who's riding shotgun is a choice. You make that choice. You see someone that is doing something that you want to eventually do, or has done it and has conquered the hurdles, the hills and the valleys of it all. Those are people that you want to choose to pay attention to listen to bring alongside you through your journey. That is such an important point that you make, that family doesn't just have to be your bloodline.
That's
Yeah,
exactly.
that's amazing. Thank you for that. Well, let's talk about the misconceptions of it all. What
Mm.
are some of the biggest misconceptions that you've seen throughout your journey when it comes to building wealth as a family?
I think one of the biggest things is that just because we didn't have, we can't have in the future. That is definitely a
Mm,
misconception. You are
mm,
not your past. You are not your family's mistakes. We have the opportunity to learn new things, but also to unlearn those things that also might not have been as healthy, that contributes to the journey. Another thing I think that is definitely a misconception is that although some people may be led as the generational curse breaker, that it's just on them to break those curses and to build that wealth. And that's not true. Because guess what? We get tired, right? We are people, we are humans, and there is only but so much that we can take, and there's only but so much that we can do alone. There is always strength in numbers. So we gotta support that strong friend. We gotta call and check on that strong family member who continues
woo!
to show up, right? So often we program ourselves that they're good. I know that they're okay, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
sometimes they're not. Sometimes they don't have a choice but to show up like that externally. But let's take a moment to think about all of the things that may be going on internally in their life. And so often we have people who are carrying the burden alone. And sometimes it gets so heavy that the journey gets frustrating, that they fall back into those habits just because it's easier. So, one, we cannot do it by ourselves. It takes more than one person and
mm-hmm,
it takes
mm-hmm,
more than one set of family members inside of a collective family as well to move families forward. People
mm-hmm.
use the term generational wealth so often, but it's almost fad language now. And I try to
Mm-hmm.
tell my
True.
clients that we cannot create generational wealth until you have sustained wealth for yourself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and also financially, so that you can have something, hold on to something, build something, and then prepare it for the next generation. But if you have
Yeah,
nothing to pass on, there is no generational wealth. Um,
absolutely. Absolutely.
one more misconception I think is that we fall into this space of feeling like there's only one way.
Mm,
There are multiple ways to build wealth. Your path may not be my path. My path might not mirror someone else's, but we all can be on our journeys building wealth together. So often, because entrepreneurship is such a popular topic right now, people are downplaying the power of having a good job, right? Sometimes that person who's building wealth is on the back of a company that is providing for them, and that may be their journey. Who's to
Mhm.
say that they're not doing other things on the side, right? Because I also believe you can't get extremely rich or wealthy from just one stream of income. However, let that be the foundation. You don't have to go and quit your job because somebody else did and started a business and now became wealthy. Choose your path. Follow
Mhm.
your spiritual guide. Everybody might not love real estate. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine last night. If real estate's not your thing, find out what is. Find your
Yeah,
mode of building that wealth for you. You might not love the stock market. Okay, great. Let's find something else. But we have to find multiple ways that we can build wealth for ourselves and let it fit your lifestyle and what you actually enjoy so that it doesn't feel like a chore. You want it to be something that you're excited about every day.
absolutely. We have Brie Calhoun listening on YouTube, and she said, "Facts, facts." And I want to add to something that you said a moment ago. Being the strong one, right? Being the one that everybody looks to and doesn't necessarily check on, and not on purpose, just because they always good. I've talked on this show several times about being that person to family, friends, because people who are strong and power through, they tend to make sure that everybody else is straight, right?
Yeah,
They could be drowning, but they're going to make sure that the person next to them isn't drowning because they know what it feels like to drown,
right.
right? And so it's not just that it's heavy, right? Or that it's hard, but it's also very lonely. And like you said, that check in, that makes all the difference. And it doesn't have to be, you don't need to come with a hot air balloon, and flowers and candies and stuff just to check in. A check in literally is a text that says, "Hey, you good over there? Just checking in. You crossed my mind." A phone call. Hey, let's go grab some ice cream. It makes a difference because not only is it heavy, it is also lonely, you know. Um, so gosh, you saying that just hit so many different thoughts in my head, and being in a place where, like you said, entrepreneurship is becoming oh yeah, I'm just gonna do it. It's quote a fad at this point. Um, some people don't realize that for others, it was never a fad.
Yep.
It very much is a way of life. When I became an entrepreneur, it never dawned on me. It was one of those things that later on it hit me like a ton of bricks. Oh, this is in my blood. Both grandfathers, my father and my mother's fathers, they were entrepreneurs. My dad's father had a cab company, a record store. He knew some people in his day, right? Through that company. My mom's dad, he owned a bakery and a convenience store. And it's one of those things that the other part of it is, as we talk about family, is you don't have to actually see for something to be in you. You don't actually have to be around for something to be in you. And I didn't realize that it was already built. I was already hardwired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My son, who's got his own business, he was already hardwired. Didn't even dawn on me. It just hit me one day like a ton of bricks, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And so that's the other piece about family entrepreneurship that I think is important to mention. And you might be the first to do it and be successful or get it off the ground. That doesn't mean that you were the first to have the idea or desire or want,
That's
um, or the bravery to step out on faith and just do it.
that's right. That's right.
So I'm glad that you mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned that piece of it because it makes such a difference. And it brings me to my next question to you as it comes to family legacy,
Mm,
right? There are families out here that just are like, listen, I just need to make each end meet every week, every month, whatever. What do you think is the best place for someone to start who, like I just said a moment ago, don't have, you know, doesn't have that actual sight line to someone having actually done it and doing it successfully? What's a good starting place for them to start their entrepreneurial journey, start their legacy building? What do you think that may be?
Yeah, my answer to this question is always untraditional. I think it starts internally first. I think it
Mm,
really starts with getting to know yourself and all of yourself. Because one thing about any business, one thing about creating wealth is that it's all an extension of you and who you currently are. And you got to be able to know who you are, know what, identify what is your why? What is the purpose of this avenue for me? You know,
mm,
am I looking to solve an immediate problem, or am I looking to fulfill a long-term goal? You know, what is that why? And that looks different for everybody. It could be for the sake of your family, it could be personal goals, but understand who you are and why you want to step into this space. But I think
mm,
it's also important to understand, what does wealth even mean for me? What does a legacy even mean for me and to me? Right?
mm,
You know, so often we do think of wealth as just the tangible dollars and cents in your bank account and the assets that you have, but it also includes the intangible assets as well. I read this book a couple of years ago called A Wealthy Girl by Miss Sharice Johnson, and she really reminded women that we have so much more wealth than we assume. Right? Because we're always just looking at the bank account. But the way that you parent, the way that you love, the way that you show up in the community, all of those things are wealthy traits, right? So most of us are already wealthy. We just have not identified it yet. And that's why I say it starts with getting to know who you are. I tell folks often, do a
mm,
SWOT analysis. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are your threats? So that you have a full understanding of where you are. It's like a GPS, right? Your GPS cannot take you to your destination without first having an origination point. And if
mm,
your phone has not already given the GPS app the permission to tag your current location, it will ask you, before I take you there, can I know,
right.
step into your current location? You got to know where you are right now before you even enter that journey of where you're going. Because when you don't, sometimes we're just operating and just winging it, right?
Mm,
And
mm,
sometimes we are building the plane as we fly it. However, you still want to have some sort of a blueprint, some sort of a map. So start with you first. And when
mhm,
you're able to really start with self, you're able to then start to identify, what are those areas of opportunity? Where do I need the most support? Is it that I need more financial education? Is it that I need more business acumen? What is it that you need? And then we can go and find those resources. And one thing about it is that we do not have a lack of technical resources. Okay. We have Google College and YouTube University and Chat GPT Academy, right? So when you're thinking about where you're going, what you'd like to see, where you'd like to be, it's also okay to start Googling it and start finding the tools and resources that are around you. And you have a
mhm,
lot of organizations that provide this level of support complimentary. As you mentioned in my bio earlier, I'm a certified SCORE mentor.
mm,
SCORE is a national network that's a part of the SBA family that provides free
mm,
business mentorship to entrepreneurs all across the country. You have the Small Business Development Center. You have programs like Operation Hope. There are so many resources out there. You have Start Small, Think Big, right? We can
mm,
find what we want to find. But I think the biggest thing and the hardest part is having those hard conversations with ourselves to say that, hey, I need some help. Because not
mhm,
everybody is ready to acknowledge that they need some help either.
mhm. Absolutely. I wanna rewind a little bit. You mentioned SWOT, a SWOT analysis. SWOT for the audience is SWOT. Will you kind of explain a little bit more about that? Spend just a minute or two on SWOT and why you feel like that is as important as it is before you start this journey, before you start your research and things like that.
Absolutely. So I think one of the first things is that it allows you to identify sometimes those areas in which you might not have even realized that were available to you. So a SWOT analysis is pretty much a chart that's broken up into four quadrants. You have your S for your strengths, your W for your weaknesses, your O for your opportunities, and your T for your threats. Those strengths, what are you strong at? What do you bring to the table? One of your core strengths might be the fact that, you know what, I have a job. I'm maintaining, right, consistent income for myself. People sleep on that, right? There are
Mm,
so many people out here who wish they had a job, who wish they had
facts.
consistent income. That is a strength, and you can leverage that. I tell people often in your entrepreneurial journey that your job should be your first investor, your first business partner. Leverage that income to allow you to move things forward, but not just identifying your strengths, right? It's also identifying those weaknesses. And that's not always a fun conversation because we don't always find joy in identifying the things that are not well in our lives, right? That are not that good. One of your
Mhm.
weaknesses could be, you know what, Lindsay, I don't have a budget and I just spend my money freely out here. That's a
Willy nilly with your money.
just really with your money, right? That is a weakness, but it doesn't have to break you. That's just a moment for you to have a self-reflective space to say, you know what, this is an area that I can do better in. And when you have those weaknesses, let's be solution oriented in our thoughts. Don't
Yeah.
sit in it and woe is me. Oh my God, right? Maybe give yourself 24 hours to cry, shout, scream, whatever. But now it's time to be solution oriented to figure out how can I transform that weakness into a positive habit that changes that category from a weakness to now a strength. Now a strength is, Lindsay, I'm budgeting my money more consistently now. Your
Hmm.
opportunities, these are things that you can see that are to come that may provide some additional positive benefits for you. An opportunity could be that, Lindsay, hey, I have a bonus that's coming for me in the fourth quarter. That's a great opportunity. It could be a skill. Lindsay, I am skilled at this thing. This is something that I can monetize. I can take this information and then produce that into a business. These are opportunities that we might not be touching today, but we see them in the horizon and we can count that towards the wins that we have that's going to help us get to that next level. And then those threats, what's out there too that we need to be mindful and cautious of. And today is not a beautiful day for a lot of my government employees.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
That's a threat for you right now. That is a
Mm-hmm.
direct threat to your livelihood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your current job position in the governmental space. And this is not a political podcast, and we're not going to go there, but that is something that we have to think about because when you are able to identify those weaknesses and those threats, you're able to start thinking about how do I combat that?
Right. How do you use those strengths to and
Exactly.
opportunities to combat those? Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. So I tell people you want to do them frequently on yourself, at least once a year, because you change, you evolve as a person, and your life's circumstances also change and evolve around you. And you want to always be able to acknowledge where you are in those spaces and places.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it was important for you to kind of break down what SWOT is. Again, audience, SWOT, because it's not just I'm already in business. What's my SWOT? It's also I want to get into business. Like I want to start a business. So it doesn't have to. And I think that's another misconception we can talk about, that people think that just because they're not already in business, certain things shouldn't or don't have to take place right now, when you can get a head start and they can start right now. And that's one of them, a SWOT analysis. So, I feel like part of that kind of segues us into the next part of this conversation, which is communication,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
What role would you say communication plays in family business? Um, and we're saying business, but not even that, but financial goals, family financial goals.
Yeah.
How can families better, communicate on those money matters, whether again it's entrepreneurial driven or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Communication is everything, right? It is the key that you absolutely need to be successful in any of those things. And honestly, again, it starts with you being a good communicator with yourself. Do you communicate with yourself when you're doing things that you are doing well or things that you're not doing well? Are you open to tell yourself in self reflection? Are you open to talking with yourself about money? Do you have regular money dates independently? Are you looking at your budget? Are you monitoring your credit reports? Are you looking at what those payments are? And if you're not doing that, it's going to make it 10 times harder for you to talk about it with anybody else. I was just teaching a class last night to a room full of potential board members of nonprofit organizations. And we were talking about specifically around financial fiduciary responsibilities as board members. And I asked them, how many of you all in here are comfortable having money conversations at home? Not everybody could raise their hand. And what that also says is if you're not comfortable talking about it at home, you're not going to be comfortable talking about it in a board meeting when those conversations need to be had, where your voice needs to be heard. So communication is everything. And we have to break the ice. No, it's not going to be comfortable if you're not accustomed to it. You know, I count it as a privilege that I grew up where money was an easy conversation, whether we had it or didn't have it. It wasn't something that was taboo or we didn't talk about. I was going to the bank with my mom and making my deposits and getting my lollipop on my way home. You know, I was going in and opening my fat cat bank account and taking my picture for my debit card. So we were talking about money. I saw my parents writing out bills. I saw my mom paying bills. I saw my dad and my mom working on invoices to their clients. So money was a constant conversation, but that made me comfortable talking about money. And I realized that it's a blessing because that's not everybody's story. Typically in our families, we haven't just been brought up having financial conversations around the dinner table, but it doesn't mean that you can't start. It doesn't mean that you can't be that person to start the conversation. We have to. We can't do business without doing money. We can't do
Absolutely.
family entrepreneurship without doing money and without doing money well. Legacies cannot be created if we can't even talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think especially folks in the Black community, right? Um, Money talk is left for the adults,
Yep.
And it really, there's multiple reasons for it, but I think, and I'm very, very much open to discussion on it, but I think that it wasn't a matter of, it's none of your business, stay in the kid's place. It was more or less, and has been and continues to be more or less, I want my kid to be a kid, not to worry about money, right? Especially when we're talking about those who are struggling on that side of life, where money is flowing here, there, and everywhere. Conversation's easy, right? When stuff is good, conversations are easy. It's when stuff ain't so good, right? When we're in a place where things just are not just as good as you want them to be or hope them to be, that those conversations become hard. So a lot of times when you find out, no, there wasn't, I saw some things growing up, but I didn't really understand, or I really didn't know. No one pulled me to the side and said, this is how it works, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't anything facetious. It was more or less, that's for kids. Let's have kid conversations, but not realizing that you can turn money conversations in a way that it is kid friendly, right? Age appropriate conversations about money. And I was going to say, that there are so many people that struggle with involving kids in money matters. What do you think are age appropriate ways to introduce entrepreneurship, to introduce financial literacy? I have I've got some very strong feelings about my answer to that question, but I want to get your thoughts on that.
I think one of the biggest things that I have to say is that I don't think there's no such thing as age appropriate. At any age, as long as that baby is learning to read and write and talk, we can talk about money. You can teach them the difference between a penny and a nickel and a quarter and a dime. You can teach them $1, a $5, and a $20 while they're learning their ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. That's how you get them comfortable early. That's money conversation, right? I think that sometimes we overcomplicate what financial conversations need to look like.
Pause right there. Pause right there. Overcomplicate. Say it louder for the people in the back.
Yes.
Overcomplicate.
Yes, we overcomplicate what financial conversations need to look like.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't, if you're not, well versed in stocks, I don't need you thinking that you got to come to the table to explain to your family how the Dow Jones work or the S&P 500. If that's not your lane, that's okay. Come and talk about what you can talk about, right? And
Yeah.
instead of telling your kids, no, do you got McDonald's money? Tell them, hey, it's not currently in the family budget. And maybe let them sit and watch you write out your budget.
Mm-hmm.
Let them sit and watch you pay bills. Let them
Mm-hmm.
sit and watch you allocate your funds appropriately. So instead of hearing, no, you can't have that. No, we don't buy that. No, no, no. Show them why.
Mm-hmm.
Show them what mommy or daddy needs to have or to see for them to get that. Teach them the value of those conversations, because what we do is we're trying to protect them and safeguard them, but that's also us projecting feelings and thoughts on them that's not even their own. And we
Mm.
also do them a disservice, because now they're growing up with a scarcity mindset, the poverty mindset. They've grown up, I've heard no so much that now I'm making a little money, I'm going to buy any and everything that I want. Now they're not stewarding well the financial resources that are coming to them. So we
Mm-hmm.
got to stop. I think a part of it is releasing the shame to all of
Mm.
my parents and the family members that are out there. Do not be ashamed of what you do not know. It is
Mm-hmm.
okay for that child to be learning alongside of you. When I'm
Mm-hmm.
teaching my financial classes, I tell my parents and stuff, bring your kids in the room. Let
Mm-hmm.
them listen in too. Let them see what you're learning, so that now y'all can have this conversation at the dinner table about what they just heard. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. So often we assume that, oh, I should have known more, or oh, I don't have, or oh, and then we're making all these moves and assumptions and we're leaving the kids out, but they forget that these kids grow up into adults.
Absolutely.
And now they're
Absolutely.
repeating those same habits.
Absolutely.
And now
And you make a
cycle.
great point. Yes, yes, that cycle. Yes. And where do you break it? Right? You mentioned earlier about generational curses. Where do you break it? You know, gosh, you make such a good point. There, how many people can you say in your life, who grew up in that way where money wasn't a conversation, but no was always a conversation. Oh, I saw mom working 3 or 4 jobs and we were just making, sometimes the water got cut off or sometimes this happened or that happened.
Yep.
Now I'm grown and I'm making a couple of dollars, as my brother would say, couple of dollars. Now I'm in the store, or I'm in the line at midnight, waiting for the store to open at 6 o'clock for the latest pair of Jordans. Or and I got to buy 3 of the pairs. I can't just buy one. Um, it's counterintuitive and it's off balance
Yep.
to what's supposed to be happening and what it could look like if you have these conversations. One of the things, Lyndsae, that I talk about in my financial literacy books when it comes to children is starting small and simple. Like you said, overcomplicate. You don't have to overcomplicate things. I love talking about the envelope method. Okay, little Susie, $5 goes in the entertainment budget envelope, the McDonald's budget envelope, the whatever the stuff is. And every time Susie asks, "Oh, can we go to McDonald's?" Yep. You pull out the envelope. Here we go. So on the third of the month, when McDonald's envelope is empty because you
Yep.
said yes every time,
Yep.
Susie now understands that. And so next month she might go, "Ooh, wait. All right, I want to save McDonald's because I want to save that to the middle of the month, or I want to." It gives them that visual of what's happening with the money, as opposed to just thinking, "Oh, you always got it." So, and it doesn't matter if you got it or you don't got it, right?
Yep.
Whether or not you are struggling living paycheck to paycheck, or you have a nest egg, that method works with kids. I've seen it in real time.
Yes, it does.
It
Yes,
makes a difference.
and
Lyndsae,
then
I want to continue this conversation, but we need to take a quick break. We're going to be back at about 90 seconds. So I want to continue this conversation because it's getting good to me. And I'm over here taking notes. You didn't noted a couple references, some resources. I didn't jotted down some notes, and I want to keep this conversation going. So if you'll Come back with me. You all will be back in just a moment.
Take charge of your financial future with our interactive workbooks, The Basics of Financial Literacy, A Healthy Money Mindset, and The Basics of Financial Literacy, A Healthy Money Mindset for Teens and Young Adults. Now available on Amazon. Dive into practical exercises and start building a solid financial foundation today. I'm Amanda Lockhart Davis, founder of Jax Consulting Services, bringing over 25 years of industry experience to our multifaceted consulting firm. With a passion for strategic problem solving and unmatched customer service, we have crafted the firm to offer a wide range of consulting services. From financial management and strategic planning to educational workshops and specialized notarization services. Jax Consulting Services is dedicated to supporting the diverse needs of our clients. Leveraging extensive experience across various sectors, we stand ready to guide your business toward success. That's Jax Consulting Services. Visit us on the web at www.jax-consulting.com.
We are back with Miss Lyndsae Peele. Lyndsae, thank you so much for waiting with us through the commercial break. We're having a great conversation. If you've missed any of it, make sure that you go back and watch the session on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram, also on Spotify later on this week. Lyndsae, whew, it's been an explosive conversation. We've talked about what's comfortable and what's not comfortable. We've talked about what a weakness is versus a strength. We've talked about how to get started. We've talked about different resources on how people can get started. Before I go into the next part of this conversation, what does it mean for you to be able to spread this knowledge, to have these kinds of conversations, whether on podcast or during your speaking events? What does it mean to you?
It means everything. One thing about it is that we were all given gifts that our job is to use and to multiply. And money is my ministry. This is a gift that the Lord has given me to be able to serve and to put out there into the world. So I'm grateful for that. This is my life's work. This is what I wake up every single day excited to do. And it looks different in various capacities. I'm one of those people who are blessed to work a 9 to 5 and have a few different 5 to 9s that are all parallel, that are within the space of financial education, real estate, and entrepreneurship. And it is for sure my why. I have been put on this earth to make sure that more families just like mine are able to build generational wealth, but sustainable wealth. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to something when right before the commercial break,
Yes.
we were talking about, family conversations around money. And oftentimes we assume that it's the hardest to talk about money when you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've also learned from some of my clients and some of my programs that they grew up in households where they had it, where they lived in the suburbs, where their parents had the nice car, they had the credit cards, they had the latest and the greatest. And guess what? They still weren't talking about money either. They
Mm-hmm.
might have had it and they could see it, but because they weren't talking about it, they still did those children a disservice because guess what? Now we have those children who grew up without the conversation, but always seeing it there, who also grew up not knowing what it actually took to get there, the financial discipline and
Mm-hmm.
stewardship that it takes to actually acquire those things. So they found themselves when they get a job, they're spending and buying and getting the latest and greatest. And it's like, well, baby, you can't afford that. You don't have your parents' budget to do that, right? But they grew up seeing it, so they assume that they can go and get it too, but they still lack direction. I have clients
Mm-hmm.
and say, I'm grateful for what my parents were able to give me, but I also wish they were able to have conversations with me about the money they had, about how they made financial decisions, about how they put our family in the spaces and places that they were in. So money conversation is for everyone, whether you have it,
Yes.
whether you don't have it, whether you in between the having it and the don't have it. We all have to talk about it. We all have to talk.
Yeah, you make a great point too, right? Because there are going to be times when you are up, 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 and there are going to be times when you just not, for whatever reason, self-inflicted, not self-inflicted. You mentioned earlier about what's going on right now with the government shutdown and these federal employees, and this is a conversation that's been happening since at least February of this year. I have several clients who their main clients, their bread and butter is the federal government. And there have been times where they were, what, you want to go to Disney World? Let's do it. What, you want to go eat out at the such and such? Yeah, let's do it. Let's, and all that. But now, right, threat.
Yep.
They're like, we have to chill a little bit because we don't know what's coming. We have to make sure that we have our cushion, and our cushion is plentiful. So that's a conversation, right? That doesn't mean that those particular people are struggling to make sure their rent is paid or their car note is paid or whatnot. But it does mean that the extras, I'll say, quote unquote, in life are put on the back burner, so to speak. And to your point, that could be a difficult conversation where little Susie is used to, Mommy, I want the newest perfume at the Ulta. No, baby, not this time. That's a difficult conversation for someone who normally is like, all right, we'll get it this weekend.
Yep.
And so I'm glad you say that, because I'm going to speak very, from a very personal place. I grew up with a friend who very literally will give you, and I mean very literally, will give you the shirt, and her whole family's like this, will give you the shirt off her back. That's what she grew up seeing. Her parents would literally do that. But I also remember times like, in elementary school, her sibling would be like, oh, Mom got a scuff on my shoe. I'm sorry, I scuffed my shoe. Okay. And Mom would turn it down and be like, yeah, I need you to go pick her up some new shoes tomorrow. In my house, that'd have been you better go get some soap and water, So me seeing that it was a stark difference from how a conversation would have happened in my house, right? Yep. Seeing that, being exposed to that, and that's just one tiny example. It to this day, I remember it like it happened yesterday. I was like 10 when it happened. I remember it like it happened yesterday. That left an impression on me.
Yep.
But, as I've gotten older, and, me and her parents are close, and we talk about different things. They share stories of what it was like when they couldn't do that. Yeah. It came from somewhere. It didn't just fall out the sky for them. And listen, for those of you out there who it has fallen out the sky, God bless you, right? But that's just not everyone's story. Right. So how do we get to a place where we can have these conversations again, whether we have it or don't have it, but in a way that is going to be beneficial to our legacy, our children, our children's children. And listen, if we're talking about folks who like, nah, I ain't got kids, it's just me, I'm good. You still want to leave a legacy. Friends, children, communities that you're serving, and so on and so forth. I think that's very important. So yes, you make such a great point. Once again, you make such a good point of just bringing that up, that sometimes the hard conversation isn't coming from the family who's struggling.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit, and I think this kind of plays into that. Mistakes that you've seen families make that slows down their ability to build and pass down wealth. We talked about the conversational piece of it, the communication. What else do you think is part of that?
Not addressing underlying feelings of possible envy or jealousy or those green-eyed monsters, right? And I know that's like, ooh, what you mean, girl, right? But I have seen, so many families that I have worked with who it was tough to acknowledge, but they had siblings and, sometimes even parents who were a little jealous of what they were able to accomplish or the things that they were able to acquire or the things, right, that might look like it comes easy for them or the professional opportunities. And we talk a lot about like, oh, we shouldn't be jealous, right? But it's a feeling, right? We are humans and we have feelings. The issue is that when we allow that jealousy to fester and it now becomes a part of our heart posture and it now impacts how we show up and build relationship with people, right? We got to have those hard conversations and get to the why. And sometimes it's, Lyndsae, I have been working for this thing for 10 years and my sister talked about it for 2 years and she got it that quickly. Let's talk about how that made you feel and let's talk about the disconnects on your journey and theirs. Because at the end of the day, everybody's journey is different. Whether we're blood, whether we're not, whether we're family, inside of the household, or whether we're extended family outside of that space. Let's talk about it so that we can address it, so that we don't allow those underlying feelings. Because what happens is when we don't address it, when we treat it like it's not there and we try to move on, now we're being passive aggressive. Now we can't even come to the family function for real and be genuine and have a good time because you looking at her, she thinks she all lit.
Meanwhile, she over here like, man, I'm tired.
Okay. Literally all the things. We gotta talk about the hard stuff. And family members get jealous. Siblings, parents, cousins. It happens. Talk about it. Because once you're able to talk about it and get to the root of it, sometimes it's not even that they're not happy for you. It's just that they're sad that it didn't happen for them yet.
Right.
And sometimes they just need a little reassurance, encouragement, right? Because when you don't, that's when we start to see that crabs in the barrel mentality. Now I'm not even telling you about the resources that I just came across. Now I'm gatekeeping because I don't want you to have more than me, because I don't want this to work out for you before it works out for me. But we cannot move and grow and sustain like that. It takes a collective, and we have to be rooted in a heart posture that it's us over everything else. Because when you don't have us, when you don't have that unity, or when your unity is phony, right, and those underlying feelings aren't being addressed, we create a level of stagnancy because we can always do more together. You might not be in a position to go and buy that investment property, but you might have a cousin and a sibling where y'all can pool y'all funds together to go and invest in that real estate together. But if y'all are secretly jealous of each other, if y'all are secretly hating on what y'all are doing out there independently, you can't come together. Now you struggling, right? Now you're delaying your progress or the things that could happen. Now we're delaying the family legacy because we're letting our feelings get in the way of that. That's one thing. And I could take a topic and run with it. But another thing too, I think, is that we feel like we got to have 100% of everything. When 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. It's okay to have people that come and partner collectively to help move things forward. There are groups of people who dream to be investors and they put their money together because you can buy more together, you can do more together, you can share responsibility when you have partners in this movement, because all aspects of life is hard. Managing a portfolio is difficult, especially if you've never done it before. But Amanda, let's just say it's you and I. We put our money together. Now, not only are we putting our money together to acquire the asset, now we're also putting our brains together.
Yes.
You're bringing your experience. I'm bringing mine. Now we're putting our resources together. Now you're bringing all of your colleagues and the things that you learned from this event, but I can also go and get and bring mine to this collective situation.
Yes.
Stop feeling like you gotta have it all for yourself, because you don't.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a minute. How do you balance just that? Because, and let me say firstly, before I continue, I 100 plus 100% agree with you on everything you just said. But to the skeptic, how do you balance what you hear all the time, what you see all the time? Move in silence so your haters don't see and don't know what you're doing. And then once you get there, then you expose it. How do you balance when it's time to be silent and move in silence with when it's time to speak to the right people, share with the right people? And I want to be very intentional in saying that the right people, that you trust and can advise and who can cheer for you. They might not be able to add anything to it for you other than being your cheerleader in the background. How do you balance those two things?
My real answer?
Yes, please. This is Life Uncensored.
Spiritual discernment.
Yes.
Because you're not going to always know it just off of the surface level of what you see, because people can trick you. There are a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing, right? But when you are spiritually rooted and grounded in who you are and who you serve and who's giving you spiritual direction, I ask for discernment often. Show me who's supposed to be in my life. Show me who needs to exit. Show me who should be a part of this business deal, who's going to be a support factor for me. And you got to be okay that when things are revealed to you, that everybody can't go with you or everybody can't be a part. Because sometimes we ignore that discernment. Some people call it discernment. Some people say intuition, right? That gut feeling that you have, trust it, question it. Can we be off sometimes? Yeah, it depends, right?
Absolutely.
But for the most part, right, I allow my discernment to guide me, because it is a balance of it. Not everything needs to be shared or broadcast and visions, given. But sometimes there are spaces and places where they are. And sometimes when we keep it to ourselves, when we hold on to so much, we also don't allow anything else to enter our hand either. So it's about being rooted and grounded in who you are and where you are in your life to also help make those decisions, because it really just depends on the person, the place, and the timing as well.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of it has to do with the who and the when. Yeah. And like you said, sometimes the jealousy, the envy, the crabs in a barrel mentality is your own bloodline. It could be your own mama. It could, but it's not always purposeful. It's just a feeling. And that's one thing that I say all the time, Lyndsae. I say all the time, I'm never going to tell someone how to feel. That's the one thing in this life you cannot help. Even if you're ashamed of that feeling, you felt it for whatever reason you felt it. And it's okay, right? Whatever it is, anger, jealousy, whatever it is. I mean, listen, how many people in our lives, or how many times have we ourselves been like, dang, I've been digging this hole so long. I've been digging. I still ain't to the fortune yet. Meanwhile, Sally Mae over there, she got a gold shovel and she don't do nothing. She don't work. How's she getting the promotions? How's she getting to this? How's she getting to that? So fast, and I'm over here, blood, sweat, and tears. We've all, for some reason or other, felt it, thought it. What you do with that thought, that is what separates you from the pack.
That's exactly right.
You can live in it and be resentful and, vengeful and all the stuff. Or you can be like, but you know what? She's running her race over there. Let me mind my business over here. Yeah. And continue your race the way you see fit. Using that, like you said, gut feeling, discernment, that intuition, however you want to label it. Yep. That's what separates you from the pack.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I want to ask you, you have someone come to one of your seminars, one of your speaking events, and they are hesitant about starting a business, family business, specifically. What steps would you give them? What, first movements would you say? These are the first three things you should do.
If they're nervous about it.
Yeah, if they're hesitant, they're like, I've got this in my head, I can't stop thinking about it. But oof, every time I do something, here come my brother and them trying to bandwagon, or I'm afraid. What if it don't work? Or whatever their reason is for being hesitant. What do you tell them? What are the first three things that you tell them, as steps to take to move towards what's in them?
I'm going to give you a little more than three because my first three are very simple, right?
Fair
Again,
enough.
have those reflective conversations with yourself. Like let's journey back to the childhood. Let's go back to where it all started, right? Where are those feelings and reservations coming from? Two, definitely pray about it, right? And whomever you pray to, right, that's your choice, but definitely seek spiritual guidance, because entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey, right? It is the
Yeah.
definition of faith, right? Moving without always knowing what's going to be on the other side.
Yeah.
But I'm going to also recommend therapy. Every entrepreneur, every budding entrepreneur, and really almost everybody needs therapy, right? We need prayer and therapy, because sometimes we need tactical, real tools, right? Sometimes we need an unbiased party to come in and evaluate the things that we're saying, that reality, and help point us back to the things that we forgot, that we swept under the rug, or the things that we are not trained to consider, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start with those things first.
Mm-hmm.
But next from that, have a conversation with a coach, with a mentor, somebody like me. And when I have conversations with my clients, I want them to show up as their full, most authentic and transparent selves, because if you're not showing up as your full self, you cannot get the help and support that you need. But when you're able to show up in those conversations, I'm not a therapist, right? But I'm able to diagnose a lot of things in just conversation. So sometimes somebody else just need to hear it from you and replay it back to you, what they're hearing, for you to then kind of allow the things to kind of settle and to have those aha moments. Find somebody you can trust. And I know that is hard to do sometimes, because not all bankers are made equal, right? Not all accountants are created equal. Not all coaches, are the same, but find someone that feels relatable to you. Go to a networking event, hear the professionals speak, and just ask for a conversation or consultation. A lot of professionals offer some type of complimentary consultation, and sometimes you just need to dump it on somebody who's been there, done that, can help you sort out the pieces to your puzzle, because again, you can't do it by yourself. We all need a team. As an entrepreneur, you absolutely need a dream team. You need a collective group of folks who can help move you forward. But it starts with one person. It starts with one person.
Yeah. Oh man, I think that's great. And you're right. And you mentioned this earlier on in our conversation. There are so many free resources out here to at least get you started. And understand, again, like what we've said a couple of times, your race isn't the same race as the person standing next to you. So, and I'm just throwing this just for the example, you might reach out to SCORE and hook up with a mentor, and you might have somebody who's standing beside you who they had a great experience. It's awesome. Their mentor is thebomb.com. But for you, it's like, I'm on my third mentor now, and they ain't really helping me the way I like. That's okay. There's other resources as well. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. And that's going to also make the difference, because listen, I'm going to shout out Miss Laverne. Miss Laverne is my SCORE mentor. And I'm the type of person, when I decide to do something, baby, I'm all in. I'm 10 toes down. Okay. So I came to her and I had my folder and all my notes and boop. And I'm like, okay, she's going to help me. I'm going to be, great. She's going to give me all this good advice and blah, blah. And I went to Miss Laverne, and asking me a couple questions. I'm telling her what I already have done, what I'm planning to do next X months, blah, 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 blah. And baby, I want you to know, towards the end of the conversation, she goes, okay, I've asked all my questions, blah, blah, blah. And she's just talking very, she goes, I only have one more question. And she like flips her paper like she's making sure she doesn't have any other questions. And I go, okay. And I'm like on the edge of my seat, like, okay, what does she need me to do? She goes, what the hell you called me for? You done everything. And we laughed about it. But she has been my cheerleader. She has said to me several times, you are on fire, right? So even if you don't land that $1 million client tomorrow, you are headed in the right direction. So I have someone who's been there, done that in my exact field, who has been basically saying, it's okay, you're going in the right direction. Whether it's slow going or not, you're heading in the right direction. And sometimes that's all you need, just to know, like you said, you've said it to someone else, or someone else has looked at it and they can validate where you're going, or they can redirect you because they've been there, done that already. And, they don't want you to get off course. The point I'm making is being able to use these resources that are out here for small businesses, solopreneurs, womanpreneurs, all the things. When I tell you, if you build it, they will come. Like that right there, it's all on you. You have to make the move. You have to make the move. That's it. So I co-sign everything you just said in terms of what those steps should be. But it does start with, and I've said this several times, one of my favorite quotes: a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
Yes, it
and
does.
I've said that to you in meetings before.
You sure have.
It's true. It's very true. And I want to take just one quick second to shout out Miss Jane McClay. She was my 6th grade teacher. And the first day of 6th grade, I walked into her classroom, and that quote, it literally scaled the entire wall, right? The entire classroom. It went around the entire classroom, all 4 walls. And I've never forgotten it. And it motivates me, and it reminds me that, this is going to be rough. This is going to be hard. But let's get it going. Let's move it. And I want to shout her out because she passed away just recently. And she touched so many people, teaching elementary school for decades upon decades upon decades. And I want to shout her out because even now she's coming into conversations in rooms that she's not in. That's what I mean by, and I think, and I venture to say, I think that's what you mean, Lyndsae, when you say having that person, that mentor, that guide, they can come from anywhere. And it'll make a difference and an impact on how you move.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it makes more of a difference than people think. And while you're on that, I have to shout out Miss Camille Rasco, a neighbor of mine, but also, she was a counselor in a school. And as a kid, she always knew that I had a gift of speaking. And while some teachers would write me off and tell my parents I talk too much, or I'm not going to run their class and all the things, right? What I learned is that they didn't know how to nurture that gift that I had of speaking at that time. And I can't blame them for the capacity limitations that they may have had. But Miss Rasco always encouraged me to open my mouth and use my voice, so much so that, she extended the opportunity for me to read the morning announcements in 8th grade. And it always stuck with me, so much so when my degree from Howard is in broadcast journalism. But it was because people like Miss Rasco saw my gift as not a threat or as not a challenge, right? But something to be nurtured, a seed to be watered. We all have a Miss Rasco out there. We all have that teacher out there, somebody who can pour into you, who can water and nurture that seed. But sometimes we got to do the hard work to go and find them.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's one of those things you don't realize it at the time.
Yep.
It's when you look back behind you and you see the path that you've walked that you realize, oh yeah.
Yep.
Yes, yes. So listen, shout out to the teachers out there, the mentors, the guides out there see, who see, you know, because like you said, there's not to discredit them. There are some who just don't see, but guess what? They weren't meant to be the ones to see, at least not at the time. At least not at the time. They may have been going through their own journey, right? So yeah, shout out to all of you out there, mentors, guides, counselors, teachers, those who are put into a position where you are meant to see. You know, thank you for that, because we've seen so many different success stories. That teacher, that that course director, that who, and now this person's off rich, famous, and wealthy, and they're like, yeah, my first grade teacher, Miss such and such.
Yeah.
Well, what's my girl's name? Abbott Elementary. Why I lost her name. The fact that the show is named after Miss Abbott, a teacher that inspired her, that saw her. Like, there's a lot of success stories behind finding those right mentors. And sometimes it's not even a mentor as we think it is. It's just somebody who gave you an opportunity just because they felt in their spirit and their soul to just, this girl talk a lot. We're going to put her talking to the test. Let's go ahead and put her on the morning announcements. Let her get some of that out of her, so when she go to class, she can be quiet.
Yes.
And that's okay, because look where we are now. Look what you're doing now. Look at the stages that you have stepped foot on at this point. It makes a difference. It makes a difference.
Amen. Thank you for that space. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I just feel like this has been such a great conversation. We've talked about all the things that it takes to build family wealth through family entrepreneurship, and understand your role in the family entrepreneurship may be you're just the cheerleader. You're the person that's there helping set up the whatever, they have an event, you're coming to help set up. You might be the person that knows how to handle the books, or you might be the person that is good at networking and you're helping bring the business. There are so many different roles within family entrepreneurship. Don't underestimate or think that because you may not be doing, you might not be the face of the business, that your role isn't important.
That's right.
And I want to make sure that I say that, because as I mentioned before, and as our Life in Uncensored family knows, my son, who has his own clothing line, the whole family, down to his 10-year-old brother, can't wait to help set up pop-up shops with him. He's pulling stuff off hangers with the clothing line, and he's doing his part too, right? It makes a difference. Every hand, every eye, every, thumbs up, every like on a post on social media, that support, being that cheerleader, there's no job that is small when it comes to family entrepreneurship. And I think that you, Lyndsae, can attest to that and second that emotion.
Absolutely. I remember as a kid filing papers. I didn't always enjoy it, but that was me doing my part, right? So don't undervalue the part that you have to give, because it counts and it matters. And also be okay sometimes doing things when there isn't a direct dollar bill attached to it today.
Oh, I like that.
It's okay. Sometimes we got to put in the sweat equity to actually see the return. And sometimes the return doesn't happen as quick as we'd like it to. But don't give up on your family either.
Don't give up on you, and don't give up on your family. Yeah, absolutely. Now, that's not to say if they out here doing crazy stuff that you don't pull them to the side.
Right.
Son, you think you know what you're doing out here? I don't, but yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lyndsae, this has been such a great conversation. I hate to bring it to an end, but all good things must come to an end at some point. I would like you to share with our audience how they can um, contact you or stay up to date with, events that you have, speaking events or otherwise. What do you have coming up? Anything coming down the pipeline, coming up in the near future that you would like our audience to know about?
Absolutely. So first of all, I welcome everyone to follow me at the Kingdom Wealth Connector on Instagram, Facebook, add me on LinkedIn at my first name, Lyndsae Peele. But also go to our website at www.kingdomvisionconsult.com. Kingdom Vision Consulting is our consulting practice, and we look forward to supporting you and your families. We actually have an ebook that is launching this month called 50 Questions to Ask Your Banker. I started my career
Woo!
I started my career in banking, and I learned so much. And one of the most important things that I learned was that not enough people knew how to navigate banking systems and products and services and relationships.
Mm.
So I'm taking
Mm.
that knowledge and that information, bringing it back to the streets to teach you all how to build long lasting and sustainable relationships with your financial institution. You might not like them all the time, but you still need them.
Absolutely. I love it. So, those who are watching and not listening, scrolling at the bottom of your screen, you'll see Lyndsae's website right below, www.kingdomvisionconsult.com, all one word. Go check her out. Stay up with her latest. Like you said, follow, like, share, subscribe. She's on all the platforms that you know and love: LinkedIn, Instagram. You're on Facebook too,
I am
yes?
on Facebook.
Your
Yes, yes,
Facebook
yes.
as well. All right. So make sure that you're keeping your eye out for Lyndsae and what she is building and all the great things that she's doing. We will definitely be having her back. She will be a familiar face and a familiar name. Okay. So make sure that you tune in and you know what's going on with Life Uncensored as well for when she will be back. Lyndsae, I like to ask all of my guests at the end of our show um, for one thing before we wrap up, and that's to tell our audience your greatest joy, or you can tell us your favorite quote and why it's your favorite quote.
Mm. My greatest joy is being able to pour life, hope, and strength back into each and every family that's been called to my voice.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it has been a pleasure talking with Miss Lyndsae Peele. Again, you will see her again back with the family Life Uncensored. Until next time, Lyndsae, thank you so much. And I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to being back. Make sure y'all subscribe, like, and follow Life Uncensored.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to close out our show. I'm going to ask you to just sit tight for me if you don't mind, Lyndsae.
Sounds good. Good night, everyone.
That was Miss Lyndsae Peele. Okay. I want you guys to make sure that you are checking out everything that she has going on. She is a wealth, and I mean a wealth of knowledge. Okay. She can make things happen. She can enlighten you. She can point you in the right direction. Right. Our topic has been spreading the wealth, family entrepreneurship. And I think she did a great job on really honing in on how that can be possible for you, right? Um, I'm going to tell you, I am so excited for what's to come. We have our next episode airing on October 15 with Miss Audrey Foster and Mr. Felton Wooten. And we're going to be talking about having a heart for caregiving. So we're going to be talking about all things caregiving. If you're a caregiver, you know someone who's a caregiver, to aging parents or children who need extra special care, you'll want to tune in for this episode, October the 15th. In the meantime, make sure that you like, follow, share, subscribe. We are on the platforms Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Spotify, as well as our website where you can catch the latest episodes. All right, so make sure that you are tuning N. Okay. All right. If you have any ideas for a topic for the show, something you'd like to hear about, go to our website. That's www.life-uncensored.com. For those of you watching, it's scrolling at the bottom of your screen right now, life-uncensored.com. Go to our page, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you would like to be a guest on the show, you have something that you feel like the world needs to hear, do the same thing. Go to our website, life-uncensored.com, drop us a note, and let's set up a time to chit chat and get you on our show. In the meantime, I'm going to leave you all with our quote of the day, which I think is quite fitting for this episode, Spreading the Wealth Family Entrepreneurship. And it's actually an African proverb. And the quote goes, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." All right, you know what to do. Stay hydrated, stay well, and do something kind for someone. You never know, you might change the world. Until next time, Life Uncensored family, have a good night. Life Uncensored, navigating adulthood one episode at a time. We're available on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also check us out on our website, life-uncensored.com. Come on over and see what you've been missing.